How you all doing? Good to see you. It's me, Analog Attack, back again. But this time, I'm flying solo. I've got no special guests with me here today. And also, I'm going to do something I haven't done for a while, and that is to get back to the jazz. So last year, I did a video on Blue Note records. I just sort of picked 12 records that I really like out of the massive Blue Note discography. Bit of a tough task, so today I've set myself maybe an even tougher task, and I picked out 10 records that I really like from the discography, the huge discography of the amazing Impulse Records, founded by Creed Taylor in 1960, sort of just as famous for their music as they were for that amazing iconic black and orange artwork and design and all this, that and the other. But as I said, huge discography. There's going to be a lot of omissions. I know I've got, there's so many records that I could have included, but I've just sort of stuck to 10 maybe important records, or 10 records that I personally really like. So let's get it going, shall we? Let's get it going. So you can't really do an episode about Impulse Records without talking about the master himself, John Coltrane, Africa Brass. His first record as a leader on Impulse, I believe it came out in 1961, and you've got sort of him as a quartet, but also there's like a big band too. 3 songs, title track takes up all of side 1. And apparently he was sort of gonna be asked Gil Evans to do the arrangements on this, but he didn't. So Eric Dolphy did the arrangements, and also McCoy Tyner, I believe, had a hand in the arrangement. But it's interesting because you've got this big band behind Coltrane. His first record, let's have a little look at the gatefold. I've just been doing some episodes about records with gatefold sleeves, so I'm a bit obsessed with gatefold sleeves at the moment, so you'll forgive me. But there you go. Of course, it's got title track and then green sleeves, which is sort of harkening back to a little bit of my favourite things kind of a vibe. But not the best record of John Coltrane on Impulse, but I just thought it was important because, it was his first record on Impulse, so it sort of launched his career. And of course, he stayed with Impulse, right through the rest of his career. So great record, John Coltrane, Quartet, Africa Brass, Impulse Records, 1961. Classic. Okay, let's move on. So, talking with sort of debut records on Impulse Records. Again, I have to think, because they're important records, I had to go with this one. Sonny Rollins on Impulse, and it's, in a way, it's quite a simple record. It's not as fiery and maybe not as good as some of his later records, but he just goes through, how many? There's like 5 or 6 standards on here. Yeah. On Green Dolphin Street, Everything Happens to Me, Hold 'em Joe, Blue Room, and 3 Little Words. So he just, it's really just 5 standards, but got Walter Booker on bass, Mickey Roker on drums, Ray Brighton on piano, and Sonny Rollins on tenor sax. Again, so I'm obsessed with the gatefold. I think this is a, Japanese pressing. But yeah, I think it's an important record, just the fact that it's Sonny Rollins' first record on Impulse. Great record. Sonny Rollins on Impulse, 1965 this came out. Check it out. Good stuff. Easy on the ears, this one. Not too wild. Now, I've chose the next record because this was actually one of the first jazz records I ever bought. I'm a relative newcomer to jazz. It hasn't been that long. I'm 53, but I didn't really get into jazz until I was about 40, something like that. And I was in a record shop in Kobe, which is near Osaka, and they had this huge floor of a in a building, and it was just full of used jazz records for quite cheap. And I just looked at this, and I kind of liked the jacket. I didn't know anything about anyone on the record, but anyway, I'm talking about this one. I love the cool artwork on this. The Dealer, Chico Hamilton. Of course, Chico is a veteran. He's a drummer, of course, jazz veteran. But this came out in 1966, and it's a real of its time record. It's really a bit psychedelic, and it's also important because Larry Coryell is one of my favorite jazz fusion guitarists. They even put a picture of him as one of my favorite jazz fusion guitarists, and it could be his recorded debut, but he's sort of all over this record. I love Larry Coryell's guitar playing, but it's they're all originals, unlike the Sonny Rollins record we just looked at. They're all Chico Hamilton original compositions. Who plays on this? Chico Hamilton. Archie Shepp is even on this record, but he plays piano on this record. Arnie Lawrence and Richard Davis on bass. 7 originals, really psychedelic, really of its time. A little bit of a rock sort of influence maybe on this record, but it's an important record for me because, as I said, it was one of the first jazz records I bought, and absolutely, definitely the first jazz record I bought on Impulse Records. So from 1966, Chico Hamilton, The Dealer. I love the title of that. It's a real sort of rock title, isn't it? Alright, moving on again. Now here's an important player. Again, I've sort of gone with the theme. It's his debut album, maybe? And it's definitely his debut on Impulse. Talking about the amazing, fiery Marion Brown. This came out in 1966, and it's sort of a bit of a companion piece to Archie Shepp's For the Train, isn't it? So, again, with the gatefold thing. So you've got, on side A, you've got 3 Marion Brown compositions, and then on side 2, you've got 3 Archie Shepp compositions. And this is a pretty listenable record. It's not as out there as some of the other Marion Brown records. Got Stanley Cowell on piano on some tracks, Dave Burrell on some tracks. He's one of my favourite piano players. The amazing Gratian Monture III on trombone. You've got to check out his records on Blue Note. And Norris Jones on bass, and Bobby Cap on some tracks, and Beaver Harris on some tracks on the piano. Like I said, not necessarily my favourite Marion Brown records. There's a lot he did not on Impulse that are good, but again, I think this is a really, really important record in the Impulse catalogue. Marion Brown, 3 for Shepp, 1966. There we go, great record. Now next, I'm going to go with one of my favourite piano players of all time, and I didn't check this, but I don't think he recorded much for Impulse, but this one is a little bit of an anomaly, just in terms of the art. It doesn't have the black and orange spine, it's just black and white. But I'm talking about Mal Waldron, and this is a soundtrack to a movie. This came out in 1967, about 2 weeks after I was born, and sort of the movie takes, I haven't actually seen it, but apparently it's sort of a look at the jazz scene in New York in the 60s, but it's a little bit different to a lot of the other Mal Waldron records. It's got scenes from the movie on the back. Mal Waldron piano, Dave Burns trumpet, Alfred Drees drums, George Coleman alto sax, Charles Davis tenor sax, George Duiva bass, and the amazing Richard Davis on bass. Open it up, I think, yeah, see, it's got all the movie, it's got stills from the movie, yeah. Sweet Love Bitter. Now, I've shown this before, and a lot of people have been quite surprised. Maybe they're Mal Waldron fans, but they've never listened to this particular record. I think it could be a little bit under the radar, maybe, but again, so I think it's an interesting record on Impulse from 1967, as I said. Mal Waldron, Sweet Love Bitter. Okay, you can't do, there's certain artists that you just sort of got to include when you do, when you talk about Impulse records, and this guy is one of my favourites. He's one of the fieriest, and he's got a few records out on Impulse, but I decided to go with this one just because, well, for a start, the artwork is absolutely incredible, really psychedelic. 1968, and this record's also notable because it's got 5 percussionists on it, so it's a really rhythmic record, lots of tribal drumming. Yeah, 5 drummers, including Beaver Harris, Norman Connor, Eddie Blackwell, plays rhythm logs, Frank Charles and Dennis Charles. Reggie Workman on bass, and side A is just the Magic of Juju title track. So he did another record on Impulse called Fire Music, which isn't as fiery as you might expect. I think if you're looking for some real fire from Archie Shepp on Impulse, I think this is the one to get. Oh, look at that, the Magic of Juju, incredible record. What else can I say about it? I love, again, going with the gatefold thing. I love the sort of iconic fonts. It's really real 70s looking. And yeah, this is definitely one of my favourite Archie Shepp records from the Impulse area. The Magic of Juju, killer record. Okay, I've got to include this record. It's my favourite of his on Impulse. It's a live record recorded in 66 and 67, 2 sessions. Let's have a look, shall we? Of course, I'm talking about the wonderful Albert Ayler. And this is, yeah, as I said, 2 live dates recorded in 66 and 67. The first song is called For John Coltrane. Apparently, John Coltrane was in the audience on that night. So how about that? That's pretty amazing. And so there's 2 lineups. So in the first live session, you've got Albert Ayler, Idle Friedman, Alan Silver on bass. I love Alan Silver. Bill Powell on bass and Bieber Harris on drums. Both of these sessions have 2 bassists, so it's really bass heavy, really powerful low end on both of the live sessions. And then on the other session, Henry Grimes plays bass, Bill Folwell plays bass again. So you've got Alan Silver and Henry Grimes, 2 of the heavyweights of the bass world in jazz. Amazing. I think it is a live record. Again, it's got the best artwork, iconic, psychedelic artwork. And then I think, for me, it's definitely the best Albert Ayler record of the few that he did for Impulse. When did this come out? 1967. Yeah, I said that, but it has 2 sessions from 66 and 67. Great record. Check it out. Alright, now this one is maybe, for viewers who are watching, they were probably expecting this one to come in. And you've got to include an Elvin Jones record, and this is an absolute masterpiece. Again, look at the artwork is incredible. Heavy sounds. Elvin Jones on the drums, Richard Davis on the bass. Now, I don't usually do much research when I do these episodes. I just kind of go with my gut feeling and, what I think about the music and how the records look and stuff. But I was looking online a little bit, and this is sort of a lesson in maybe, not trusting reviews on the internet, because all music, which hasn't got the best reputation anyway, but they sort of said the music is essentially hard bop, which, yeah, kind of true, but not all that essential, which is actually the complete opposite of what it really is. It's absolutely essential, especially, it's just worth it for raunchy retail. It's just such a hard-charging, hard bop song. So you've got Frank Foster on the tenor sax as well, and yeah, Richard Davis, obviously, Elvin Jones. There they are. Again, going with the gatefold thing, but this is sort of one of those masterpieces. It's easy on the ears. It's not out there free jazz. It's a really enjoyable listen, but it's heavy. Top recommendation from me. Came out in 1967 as well. Again, year of my birth. Great record. I mean, as I said, top recommendation. And look at those 2 guys smoking on the cover. You couldn't get away with that these days, could you? But masterpiece of jazz. Okay, I think I'm getting through this quite fast. I think that's a good thing. You don't want to hear me rabbit on. So I couldn't go without including a McCoy Tyner record. He put out quite a lot of records on Impulse, then he moved to Blue Note, then he moved to Milestones, and all of those 3 phases of his career I love. I can't really decide his Impulse years were the best, or his Blue Note years were the best, or his Milestones era was the best. They're all great. So it's a bit hard to choose one record from the Impulse years. So I kept it simple and just went with his debut. I think, well, this is his first record on Impulse, and it's also his debut as a leader. I think I'm right in saying that. So after he exited the John Coltrane Quartet, this was the first record he did as a leader. It's a trio. It's let's see, yeah, we've got McCoy Tyner on piano, Art Davis on bass, and amazing Elvin Jones on drums. It's called Inception. Just a really nice listen, you know, just a classic jazz record. He did go on to do much wilder and more fiery things. I'm not going to get into those in this episode, but this was a really fine debut for him as a leader on Impulse Records. There you go, Inception, the McCoy Tyner trio. Again, one of my favourite pianists, definitely, after Mal Waldron. Okay, we've got two more, and in a way I'm sort of saving the best for last, so let's have a little look at my top two. These records aren't ranked, but this is just the order that the pile's in. But what can you say about this record? Alice Coltrane, Journey in Satchidananda. This is a bit of a recent reissue, but this is spiritual, and you know, you can take what you want from what the word spiritual means. I'm not sort of a religious person, but you definitely feel something when you put this record on. Pharoah Sanders, some of his best work. So you got Alice Coltrane, Pharoah Sanders, and then Cecil McBee on bass, Charlie Hayden on bass as well, Rashid Ali on drums. You know, he did that amazing duet with John Coltrane. And Majid Shabazz on bells, Tulsi on tambura, and Vishnu Wood on oud. So it's got that real Indian kind of music vibe going on. Great. This is probably my favourite Alice Coltrane, that's why I chose this one. And it's also got Pharoah Sanders on it. Again, absolutely top recommendation. Came out in 1971, and it is a very 70s sounding record, I think. So yeah, killer record. Can't go wrong with a bit of Alice Coltrane, in my opinion. Well, I have saved my favourite till last. This record is one of my favourite jazz records. It's probably one of my favourite records of any genre of music. The first time I heard this, I just sort of stopped what I was doing and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Can you guess what I'm talking about? You probably can. Of course, I'm talking about Pharoah Sanders, Karma, 1967. You've got the 32 minute. The creator has a master plan which starts off with that little kind of John Coltrane, I Love Supreme motif, and then it goes into the most sort of hair-raising, spine-tingling sax riff, can I use the word riff, in the history of jazz and the history of music. If you've not heard it, please stop what you're doing and get on YouTube, whatever, and give it a listen. It is absolutely incredible. It's some of the most powerful music I've ever heard in my life, like any genre, hands down. It's absolutely, as I'm speaking, I'm sort of hearing that amazing sax riff in my head, and it's matchless. There's nothing that can beat it, in my opinion. And of course, you've got the vocals on this record, which some people might not like. You know, I don't mind it. Let's have a little look. This is a Japanese pressing, but yeah. Of course, it's Leon Thomas on vocals. Sorry, I was forgetting. But it's Leon Thomas. I've got a few of his records too, but I think this also might be his best vocal performance. Also, it's a bit more understated than some of his other stuff. Richard Davis, Julius Watkins, James Spaulding, Reggie Workman. Amazing lineup, amazing record. I'll say it again. My favourite record on Impulse, one of my favourite jazz records of all time, and one of my favourite records of all time in any genre. Well, there, I got through 10 records on Impulse in under 20 minutes. That's quite a feat. I did quite a good job there, keeping it brief. So if you're not familiar with some of these records, go and check them out. Impulse Records, fantastic label, and maybe I'll do a part 2 and delve even deeper into the wonderful world of Impulse Records. So until next time I'll probably be with a guest again, I hope. So please look out for me. I don't do this very often, but if you're watching, give me a little subscribe, give me a like. It helps things along, doesn't it? So until next time, stay healthy and stay clean.